How did the universe come to be? How did we come to exist? For people of faith, they have an explanation for this. But what does science have to say about origins? Science is a naturalistic way to search for truth. The scientific method is based on observing our world, making measurements, and performing experiments. Anything God has done to create or mold this world in the past cannot be observed and tested by the scientific method. This means that science does not consider anything supernatural when explaining our world. Said another way, mainstream science will never consider God to be the cause of anything. If God has intervened in the past to create or shape our world, science will never arrive at that truth. According to mainstream science, once there was nothing at all. There was no stuff, no matter, not even empty space. Then, 13.8 billion years ago, the universe sprang into existence in an event called the Big Bang. Space and matter came into existence and expanded rapidly to become the universe. It is not known what caused the Big Bang. A good illustration of the Big Bang is that of a balloon expanding. Inside the balloon is the universe. There is no outside. The universe started off incredibly small and hot and cooled as it expanded. If it had expanded too fast, gravity would not have been strong enough for matter to clump together to become stars and galaxies. If it had expanded too slowly, gravity would have caused all the matter to collapse back in on itself like a black hole. The rate of expansion had to be perfect for our universe to be a place where we can live. Gravity caused matter to attract together to form stars and galaxies. The extreme heat in stars created heavier elements which became the building blocks of planets. Mainstream science states that around 4.6 billion years ago, the Earth formed from debris that pulled together because of gravity. It is thought the Earth started off as a molten place and became covered by shallow seas. Microscopic life came to exist in the oceans almost immediately. Science never appeals to God as the cause of anything, so the first life developed from non-life through chance chemical interactions. How life can develop from non-life is difficult to imagine. Even simple cells are very complex. Life had to develop by chance and then also had to have the ability to both survive and replicate. Said differently, by chance chemical interactions, life began and was lucky enough to also survive and have offspring. If life came from elsewhere, which science refers to as panspermia, how did life begin there? For almost 4 billion years, all of life on Earth was simple like bacteria, algae, or plankton. Around 542 million years ago, many fully developed creatures with eyes, heads, tails, appendages, shells, and jointed limbs suddenly appeared in the fossil record. This is called the Cambrian explosion, and it is sometimes referred to as biology's Big Bang. There is no fossil record of gradual evolution from simple life to these creatures. It's as if they burst onto the scene fully developed. Since science does not consider God as a possible cause, it is thought that evolution occurred quickly over a relatively short period of time. Before I continue, let's discuss Darwinism. It has been a scientifically accepted way of explaining how new life came to be on Earth. According to Darwinism, all life is descended from the first simple life form. Development of life is caused by random mutations that change a creature's DNA. Almost all mutations are harmful or neutral, but occasionally a mutation is believed to impart a survival advantage. This caused creatures to change gradually. The fittest creatures survived, while others went extinct. Many genetic changes over a very long time are said to result in the evolution of a completely new species. This is how microscopic life is supposed to have gradually become fish, dinosaurs, and people. Science tells us that the Earth and life forms have changed over time. At least 5 mass extinctions occurred over many millions of years. After each mass extinction, new kinds of life appeared suddenly in the fossil record without evidence of their gradual evolution from a previous creature. It's almost like they just popped into existence. Harvard paleontologists Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldredge from the American Museum of Natural History proposed an evolutionary theory called punctuated equilibrium. The idea is there would be little change in a species for a very long time, but then evolution from one species to another would occur over a short period of time. This would cause new creatures to appear suddenly in the geologic record without transitional fossils being found. Gould states, the extreme rarity of transitional forms in the fossil record persists as a trade secret of paleontology. The evolutionary trees that adorn our textbooks have data only at the tips and nodes of their branches. The rest is inference, however reasonable, not the evidence of fossils." Unquote. Stated plainly, the fossils rarely show gradual evolution over time, so they theorize that evolution occurred over a much shorter period of time. And since there were so few transitional creatures, we don't find their fossils. It's almost like creatures were suddenly brought into existence. Please use the link at the end of this presentation to view a short video about punctuated equilibrium. For our universe to have galaxies, stars, and a planet we can survive on, a lot of things have to be just right. This is referred to as the fine-tuning of the universe. The degree of fine-tuning necessary for us to have a universe humans can live in is extraordinary. Some examples of fine-tuning are the electromagnetic force, the strong force, carbon formation, and the expansion rate of the universe. Talking about this gets very technical, and I won't try to cover this here. What I will do instead is provide quotes of scientists who refer to fine-tuning. At the end of this presentation is a link to a short video that explains fine-tuning in more detail. Princeton physicist Freeman Dyson. The more I examine the universe and the details of its architecture, the more evidence I find that the universe in some sense must have known we were coming. Physicist Stephen Hawking. Why did the universe start out with so nearly the critical rate of expansion that separates models that recollapse from those that go on expanding forever, so that even now, 10,000 million years later, it is still expanding at a nearly critical rate? If the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present state. Physicist Heinz Pagels. Where are these laws written into the void? What tells the void that it is pregnant with a possible universe? It would seem that even the void is subject to law, a logic that exists prior to space and time. Cambridge University astrophysicist Fred Hoyle. A common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates from the facts seems to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. I'll discuss how science explains fine-tuning a little later on. Earth is a special place. A lot of things have to be just right for advanced life to live and survive on our planet. The sun has to be a specific type of star. There must be water. It can't be too hot or too cold. For life conditions to be stable over time, our sun has to exist in the right place in the right kind of galaxy. Our galaxy cannot be too close to another galaxy because gravitational fields would move our planet out of its stable and safe orbit. There cannot be a black hole too nearby for the same reason. If a nova exploded nearby, it would destroy life. Earth must have a magnetic field to protect life from radiation. Not many meteors or asteroids can impact our planet. Jupiter and Saturn play a huge role in protecting us because their gravity pulls objects in space away from Earth. Dr. Hugh Ross lists 154 fine-tuned conditions necessary for advanced life on Earth. How can science explain all the fine-tuning of the universe and Earth without appealing to a creator or designer? As I mentioned earlier, science does not appeal to the supernatural as a cause of anything. In science, everything happens by chance, without direction. Two main ideas have been put forth to explain the fine-tuning of the cosmos. The first scientific explanation is called the anthropic principle. Basically, the anthropic principle states that if things weren't perfectly fine-tuned, we wouldn't be alive to talk about it. I cannot argue with this, but to me it doesn't really explain anything. It basically says that we are here because we are amazingly lucky, and if we weren't incredibly lucky, we wouldn't be here to wonder about it. The second scientific explanation is a theory called the multiverse. It states that during the Big Bang, an infinite number of universes were created. All of them formed by chance and are unique with different natural laws. Due to pure chance, one of them has laws that make it possible for us to come into existence and survive. To say it another way, with an infinite number of universes, it was inevitable that things would be just right in one of the universes for us to come into existence. According to either view, we are just really lucky to exist. There's a link at the end of this presentation to a short video about the multiverse theory. Fossils clearly showing gradual evolution from apes to modern man have not been found, and scientific disagreement exists regarding the path of evolution leading to modern man. As with other creatures, any evolution that may have occurred happens suddenly over a shorter period of time. The number of genetic changes necessary to change any known creature into a modern human is extremely large. Radical improvements such as abstract thinking, advanced tool-making, artistic expression, and language would have needed to develop by chance over a short period of geologic time. Based on dating techniques around 40,000 years ago, art, jewelry, musical instruments, advanced tools, needles, and fish hooks became numerous in the fossil record. Around 3500 BC, civilization based on large-scale farming and specialization of labor began. So, according to naturalistic scientific view, for no known reason, space, time, matter suddenly burst into existence. By chance, the universe happened to expand at a perfect rate so that galaxies, stars, and life on Earth could exist. A multitude of natural laws and forces just happen to be fine-tuned so the universe and advanced life on Earth can exist. By chance, a planet we call Earth came into existence with a large number of just right conditions that make advanced life possible. By chance, as soon as life was possible on Earth, it came to be. Not only did life begin by chance, but somehow also happened to be able to survive and replicate. This occurred because random chemistry got together in just the right way. Perhaps life came here from elsewhere, but if it did, how did life begin there? By chance, a multitude of fully developed creatures burst into the fossil record around 542 million years ago without evidence of gradual evolution from previous creatures. By chance, new life continued to suddenly appear in the fossil record with little or no evidence of gradual evolution from pre-existing creatures. By chance, consciousness, morality, art, music, language, religion, and even sex have developed without a designer. As a teenager, I had an experience where God became real and personal to me. I loved God, and I greatly respected science. Over time, I began to sense a friction between what I believed about the Bible and what science taught about origins. When I was older, I took college geology. I enjoyed the class, but the friction between science and the Bible was a concern in the back of my mind. At the end of the semester, the teacher showed a science film on origins. I dreaded watching it because I expected it to challenge my faith. When the film was done, I was surprised. I remembered thinking that the naturalistic scientific view just wasn't that compelling. Everyone has the right to make up their mind about origins. I defend the right of someone to believe in a naturalistic world where God does not exist. But to me, the data makes this seem highly unlikely. I think many Christians are unnecessarily intimidated by science when it comes to origins. To me, it is very reasonable to believe in a God who created everything and fashioned it into a world like the one we live in today. I would like to encourage you to watch the following brief videos. There is a lot of great information in these, and I wanted to include them in this presentation, but I felt I needed to keep this presentation brief.